With our friend Niall Stanage, White House columnist for The Hill. Niall, there is so much passion behind this, but I'm really curious to know, Senator Elizabeth Warren, she says the Supreme Court has lost its legitimacy and called for more justices to be added to the bench. Obviously, there are a lot of people upset, particularly those who are not conservative. But is this a bunch of rhetoric and rage, or is there any case to be made here that the judges somehow violated their duty?
I think it's difficult to make the case that the judges violated their duty, Adrienne. I think it is also difficult, I must say, to make the argument that increasing the number of justices would actually increase the legitimacy of the court. That has happened historically. There have been about 7 times when the numbers on the court has changed, but that hasn't changed since the 1860s. Seems to me that if you get to a situation where the party that controls Congress expands the court, then you're just off in an endless chain of reaction and counter-reaction, and we end up in 20 or 30 years with some ludicrous number of members of the court and, a one-person majority for whichever party happens to be in power at that particular time. I don't see how that helps legitimacy.
There is a seismic change with this ruling in the most debated topic in the country. This talk that the judges lied, as one of the members of Congress mentioned, it's become late-night talk show fodder. But again, play back the video. I'm asking people, play back the video and make the determination for yourself as to whether you think that they were not being truthful. However, how serious is it that any member of Congress would publicly accuse a sitting judge of the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, of lying?
Well, it's obviously a serious charge, not least because if it were provable, it would be grounds for impeachment. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez yesterday made that argument. But I must say, even she said if they were lying, and you made a great point in your question, Adrienne, that people should play back the video. The quotes that I have seen from the hearings from the Conservative justices, it's very difficult to argue that they're lying. They're talking about things like respecting precedent or that precedent is a serious thing. But they didn't say anything that would block them from overturning a precedent if they considered it egregiously wrong, which is the Conservative argument on Roe. So, where does something that might be misleading or incomplete become an actual lie? That's the question, and it's a very difficult question to answer in this case.
Right, and even if you wanted to say, where does discretion and the ability to answer very difficult questions about very difficult topics become something else?
Sure.
But so many times we're hearing comments being made by those in Congress, by those in a place of leadership, and those words becoming volatile and incensing people on both sides of the aisle. Does it appear there's more anger with this ruling, maybe than we could have predicted, especially with the firebombing of pro-life pregnancy centers? Rudy Giuliani being slapped by an employee this weekend at a store, the man slapping him hard and saying, now women will die because of you. Does it seem that this vigorous rage is intensifying?
There's clearly a lot of anger about this ruling. Now, there's a combination of factors behind that, it seems to me. One is the fractious, belligerent political atmosphere that you and I have talked about and lamented so many times before. There's also the fact, though, that abortion is such an intimate, emotive issue by its very nature. You have played the video of those facilities that were vandalized, apparently by so-called pro-choice protesters. There is a history, as you're also aware, of attacks on abortion clinics by people who are radicals on the opposite side, on the anti-abortion side. There was a doctor killed years ago in that regard. But look, this is an enormously combustible atmosphere adding to an already combustible general political culture, and that's a bad combination.
And we have to just mention there are a lot of people who are happy with this ruling, not in the streets protesting, but really cheering on the decision by the justices. Still, there is a low approval rating for the Supreme Court, as it's even lower for Congress. So we're in a difficult time, clearly. But Niall, we want to thank you for continuing the conversation as always. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Adrienne.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.